Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. Today we're exploring naval warfare through the book Fleet Tactics and Coastal Combat. Specifically, we're diving into the 7th chapter, The Great Trends, to see how technology has completely reshaped the way battles are fought at sea.
So how has sea combat been so radically transformed over the last century? Well, first, we're going to challenge a pretty famous idea. Then we'll break down the core components of any battle, see how they've evolved, and really dig into what all this means for a modern naval commander. You know, we often hear about these timeless principles of war, things like mass, objective, and surprise. But are they really timeless? I mean, especially at sea, where the battlefield itself is just so different from land. This question really forces us to look beyond those simple old rules and ask if they even still apply.
So you've got the great naval strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan, and his idea was basically this. Tactics change with technology, but the foundations of strategy are solid as a rock. But what happens when technology gets so advanced that it starts to crack that very foundation? What if the core principles are just completely different depending on whether you're fighting on land or at sea?
And the differences are just night and day. On land, holding a defensive position is often seen as the stronger move. At sea, it's almost always weaker. But the really telling point is that last one. On land, if you can't attack, defending is a totally valid choice. At sea, though, just trying to defend yourself without being able to strike back is incredibly risky and can get you sunk. It shows you just can't copy-paste principles from one battlefield to another.
Okay, so if a fixed list of principles doesn't really work, what does? Well, a better way to think about it is to break combat down into its core processes, the fundamental actions that make up any naval battle.
Think of these 5 things as the essential ingredients for any naval fight. You've got firepower to do the destroying, scouting to find the enemy in the first place, command and control, or C2, to make sure everything works together. Then you have counteractions to mess with your opponent's plans, and finally, maneuver to get you in the right spot at the right time. A great commander has to master and mix all 5 of these to win.
Now let's see how technology has just completely supercharged those first 2 ingredients, firepower and scouting. And I gotta tell you, the changes here are absolutely breathtaking. This chart is just mind-blowing. See that vertical scale? It's logarithmic, which means every single step up is a massive leap. It's showing us that weapon lethality has jumped by 5 orders of magnitude. That's 100,000 times since the 16th century. And when guided missiles and nukes showed up, that curve went almost straight up.
And here's where the real problem kicks in. As your weapons get more powerful and could reach farther out, the challenge of actually finding the enemy just explodes. It's a basic rule of geometry, but it has huge implications for tactics.
So this is the key takeaway. Right here, you double your weapon's range, and you've just quadrupled the size of the ocean you have to search. The battlefield isn't just getting bigger, it's becoming exponentially harder to see what's going on. So, with these incredibly lethal weapons flying around a battlefield the size of a small country, how on earth do you defend your fleet? Well, the answer today is completely different from the age of battleships. In the old days, it was all about staying power. Ships were basically floating fortresses, wrapped in thick armor, designed to take a punch and keep on fighting. But today, one missile can cripple even the biggest warship. So the whole philosophy is flipped. It's not about absorbing the punch anymore. It's about dodging it entirely, using dispersion, deception, and missile defenses to just not get hit in the first place.
Okay, but this brings us to a really fascinating paradox. We've just established that weapons are hyper-lethal. So why are fewer sailors becoming casualties in modern naval battles? How does that even make sense?
And the answer, in a word, is dispersion. Modern fleets don't sail together in tight formations like they used to. They spread way out across huge areas of the ocean. This makes each individual ship a much harder target to find and to hit.
So you've got longer ranges, faster weapons, and this critical need to spread everyone out. All of that creates an incredible challenge for the human being at the center of it all, the commander.
You would think, right, with satellites and radar and endless streams of data, a modern commander would have a perfect, crystal-clear picture of the battlefield. But actually, the opposite is often true. This flood of electronic information can create more tactical uncertainty, not less.
And this quote just captures that relentless pressure perfectly. Unlike commanders in the past, today's leaders are in a constant 24-hour war. A decisive attack can come from over the horizon, from under the sea or from the air at any moment with terrifyingly little warning.
So, with all this revolutionary change, with tactics being torn down and rebuilt from scratch, is there anything about naval warfare that has actually stayed the same?
Yes, there is, and it's the core purpose of maneuver. Whether you're using wind or steam or nuclear power, the goal is always the same: get your forces into a better position to fight than the enemy. That fundamental truth is the one constant thread connecting the age of sail to the age of missiles.
And this leaves us with a final, really crucial question for the future. As technology keeps accelerating, as we bring autonomous weapons and AI onto the battlefield, who or what becomes the conductor of this incredibly complex orchestra? That fundamental challenge of command and control, of mastering all these processes, isn't going away. If anything, it's becoming more critical than ever. We hope that you liked today's video. Post your questions in the comments section for future videos.